Electrocast.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Hey, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to let you know that you can now grab my album of guided meditations. It's called Sourced by Spirit, and it's on all streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube Music, and many more. There's 11 guided meditations ranging from 4 minutes through to 10 minutes to help you reset your mind and your body at any time. Okay, now let's get on with the show. Dr. Dylan Petkus is a physician, researcher, and health optimization expert who takes an integrated approach to sleep apnea. As a peer-reviewed published author and award-winning researcher with a medical degree, a master's degree in endocrinology, and a master's degree in public health, Dr. Petkus focuses on how oxygen metabolism is at the core of sleep apnea. For over a decade, he has coached and educated others on lifestyle changes and natural therapies to optimize health. His goal is to share practical advice for improving sleep, energy levels, and mental clarity. I had a ball chatting with Dylan, not only learning a lot about how we can sleep better, treat sleep apnea, but also have a laugh while doing it. Welcome, Dylan, to the Ethical Evolution.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Now, Dylan, for those people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you go ahead and tell us?
Yeah, so I am Dr. Dylan Petkus, and I help people with sleep apnea. I guess would be the simplest way. Obstructive sleep apnea, if you want to be more specific. That's what I spend most of my time doing, and then the other third, I'm sleeping. That's kind of it. I'm pretty boring, all things considered.
You're not boring at all, and that's why you're here. Now, firstly, tell us how you got into this field of helping people with sleep apnea. You had issues sleeping yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, so this is something people ask about a lot because I don't really look like a typical sleep apnea person of any means. Like, well, you had sleep apnea when you're 15. That's the comment I'll get a lot, or people like, I don't know. Anyway, like on social media. But essentially, when I started to notice sleep problems, right, which is a pretty common thing, like when I'm talking to people, kind of the first time, kind of that initial contact you have. It's it all started back when it's very subtle at first. It turns into maybe one night's off, 2 nights off, and then it's an every night thing, and you're like, okay, pretty sure this is a thing going on here. And then a lot of people, struggling with this will then get a sleep study. So that's what I did as well. And then from there, you get the news oh, hey, you got either mild, moderate, severe sleep apnea. Here's your AHI number, or your sleep apnea score, which is, not something you want to be very high at all. And from there, and this is something that a lot of people come to us for when they're it's kind of revolving around the CPAP, if you will. Because it's okay, you can try this thing, have fun. And don't get me wrong, some people do really well with it. It's about 30-40%. They're I call them Happy Pappers, which if I ever start a t-shirt line, that would be one of the things there. But then the other 60% are not happy. And I was one of them.
Yeah.
It's for a lot of reasons. Obviously, everyone's like, your airway, your sleeping isn't uniform or the same throughout. So like, why would it respond to the exact same treatment? But I guess, well, that is the story of today. And so, tried it out, and then it just became something for me. I gave it a good college effort, university effort, however you say that. And then it just felt like it made things worse, a lot of hassle, a lot of frustration. And it just really turned into something where I was like, okay, I got to find a way to fix this, which is what, a lot of people, myself, back then, yeah, Facebook wasn't even a thing back then, which makes this story sound like ancient.
I remember those
I never
days.
thought of, oh yes, no Facebook, no. But the reason I mention that is because like now, I mean, I'm sure if you just mention the word sleep apnea out loud, you'll get ads
I know.
for like mouth guards and all those things. It's crazy. But even without that brilliant nudge of technology invading my privacy, but also trying to help me, tried mouth guards, mouth tape before it was cool. Nasal strips, they're never cool. Went through a lot of those attempts, but it's like, okay, a little bit of progress, not really get anywhere, a little bit of progress, not really get anywhere. And that's where you kind of take the step back. And I was really forced to look at it very differently, right? Which is a big shift for a lot of our clients, a lot of on learning of like, okay, yeah, these things are over here, yes, they help sometimes, but also we're kind of missing part of it. And one of the first big things I learned was like, okay, well, you can control your own. I know this is going to sound like so stupid, but I mean, you have these realizations in your health, right? Where you're like, wait, are you telling me how I eat affects like kind of that level of epiphany? Of where for me, I'm like, well, it's an issue with breathing. What if this is really just clearly an Einstein level thought, but what if I focused on my breathing? Okay. And for anyone who may not know my sense of humor yet, that was very facetious. Obviously, that's not like me thinking about if you're driving at the speed of light and turn your headlights on, what happens? It's not that level, but it's very simple. And when I got into it more of like, okay, well, how can I do that? Certain breathing exercises, right? That we can go over in a little bit. And then the first time I was doing them, just like anything else you find, right? Where it's like you find something online or a lot of people when they like first start out, whether it's a book or like a video, like in a comment, they'll be like, okay, I don't think this is going to work, but I want to try it anyway. Okay. That's like the exact same spirit, really strong commitment that I get to these breathing exercises, which I partly blame on my fatigue, but nonetheless, the next morning, like slept through the night. I was like, what the French door is this here? What's going on? Why didn't someone tell me about this? And it was just like kind of a shock of like, okay, there is something to focusing on breathing in a big way. Because as I learned more and have been able to articulate a lot better, your body has this like brain breath connection, right? You can control your brain, your nervous system from how you breathe, and your brain and nervous system control how, like, it's this very circular two-way street here. And effectively, one of the big things with sleep apnea, which is why, like, for myself and many people, there's not a uniform cause. Okay. I mean, we can say there is if we want to get down to the physics of it, but whether it's like your palate, like that's the roof of your mouth, whether that's a little strange, I shouldn't say strange, I should say tense, or enlarged, or you have something, a narrow nasal passageway, enlarged tongue, you have more weight, you have enlarged neck. There's like a lot of different ways to end up with sleep apnea on the surface, right? But at the end of the day, those are all problems that, as long as you like learn to breathe with it, like if you train your body to breathe despite those anatomical issues, you can overcome this. Like I have a lot of our patients, clients have as well, or just like sometimes like it's kind of funny because like we'll have some people who like they buy the book and then they send like an email and then like the next day they're just like, oh my god, I did the breath. I was like, see, I told you, like I'm not lying my ass.
It works.
You gotta do it. Well, the reason I'm like I act surprised is because one, it's the same experience I had, and not everyone has that experience. Because for me, kind of back to my story, so I did that, and you know when you do something, it kind of works, and you're like, all right, I'm out of the woods now. We're all good. I'm hot shot. You know, I know I've unlocked the secrets of the universe, and all of that. And then like things stop working like they should. It's like, oh, okay. Well, what I was doing, you know, and I tried a lot of different things. It made some headway. That's where I learned more about like all the different breath work. Because you know, I would want to go through either box or rectangle breathing later. But like there's so many different things. Like when we're working with our clients, it's like walking triangle breathing with a nasal, like all this iterations. So I'm grateful for the struggle I had there. But like, it's the feeling when you're working on something and you're like, there has to be something missing here, right? It's like breathing, yes. And then again, a very like fifth grade, which I think is being generous, fifth grade level question, like, what else affects breathing, right? Really, I'm really like selling myself short here. No, these thoughts no one's ever had. What else affects breathing? Which is a lot of things. And when you actually look at, well, I mean, like counterintuitively, we all already know this. We may not be conscious of it, just like maybe someone listening to this right now is becoming a little bit more conscious of their breathing. Just like when I say like your posture is bad, everyone automatically sits up. So there's a ton of things that we already know, whether it's you know, our nutrition, whether it is stressors in our life. You know, even if like you have a bad night's sleep, if you're really tuning in, like you notice your breath's a little bit harder throughout the day. All these different factors. So then the question became like, well, what if I also focused on those things? Call me crazy, like radical thought, right? And especially when like you start to hone in on like, well, what is sleep apnea doing to the body, right? Because if like your car broke down, and then you know well, not if your car broke down, like let's say a part of your engine's off, and it's like it's causing you to use your brakes more. It's gonna wear your brakes out, and et cetera. But then overall, it's hard to drive the car. Same thing with sleep apnea. Because when you're not sleeping well, constantly getting woken up, it's going to basically put your body into the survival mode that is going to deplete certain nutrients. It's going to make your nervous system on overdrive. It's going to disrupt your body's circadian rhythm, which is the timing of different events like making hormones, etc. Those are all going to get like, you know, beat up, so to speak. And all those factors I just mentioned also then feed into your breathing. So this is why people stay stuck for so long, right? Because like when you know, speaking to people in like kind of the initial conversations we'll have, it's like I've been like this for 10 years, 15 years, like not uncommon, right? Or this is also why people will be on a CPAP and then it stops working. Okay. And it's not because it's okay, it sometimes can be the machine, right? But when people replace that, things stay the same. Okay, it's not okay, and it's also not like the 13th mask or nasal pillow or anything. It's because those other factors are in such a bad spot over time that you know they really almost negate the benefit of whether it's when people talk about their CPAP stop working or like, oh, the mouth guard is not working like it used to, so on and so forth. Until you fix the whole problem, it's you can slow the decay like I did with the breath work there, but you need it like kind of all together. So hone in on those factors, right? Like you know certain nutritional aspects, which will also vary per person, right? Because like my nutritional issues are going to be different than yours, even if, like, say we both had sleep apnea. Okay. Just like if I have a pickup, you have I don't know, a minivan, and our brake pads are going to wear down differently. Right?
Yeah.
So, I took time to address that. And like, that's when things really start to like lift sustainably. It wasn't like the one hit wonder of being like, okay, this is like a nice, easy trajectory. And it became a place of where then, like, over time, it took me 18 months, which is not how long it takes. People were really working closely with. It took me 18 months to get, the repeat sleep study where it's like, hey, this is gone. Interesting. How'd that happen? Well, I don't know. Must have been luck. That's the journey that I've been on, and I mean, very similar to a lot of the people we're working with, of like the different nuances, of course, but that's kind of the big key focuses there.
And, I got curious about sleep and its impacts, whether you get it or not. Recently, when I went to see Dr. Andrew Huberman, he came here to Brisbane recently, and he does a lot of work with Dr. Matt Walker, and they're doing a series at the moment on sleep. And there's just so many facets in our daily lives that can impact our sleep, like you were nodding to there, in terms of nutrition, just general self-care, and actually just the way you go about your day. Even the way you start your day can actually impact the way you end it. So, you talk there also about circadian rhythms, and, he's a big one for morning light. And actually, the absence of light or otherwise can also play an impact in your circadian rhythms and how you sleep, to the point where he uses a red light at night and doesn't use any bright LED lights. So it's really tuning in and dialing in those aspects of how you live your daily life that can really maximize the rest that you get. And then the on-flow effect from that. I mean, we've all seen someone or been someone who has not had enough sleep, like we're either grumpy or we act like we're drunk. And I know there's a study that says, like if you drive your car on 4 hours of sleep, it's like driving drunk. And I've been there by myself. I used to live on 4 hours sleep a night, and I've managed to turn that around this year. And I tell you what, Dylan, the first time I had 8 hours sleep, I was absolutely floored. I was like, is this what it's like? This is incredible. And it's really when you take that self-care and you do the things like taking care of your nutrition, you're exercising, you're getting out in the sunlight, you're drinking plenty of water, and you're doing all the things you should do to take care of yourself as a human, it actually then has a great benefit to your sleep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this will be a bit more technical, which perhaps will be fine. But sleep it's not an event, it's a function. What the heck does that mean? So, like, we would view like your ability to think as like a metric of your brain health, right? Or your ability to squat as a function of your lower leg strength, or so on and so forth, right? But sleep is like this isolated thing that's just like over there, right? It's not like it just happens, or maybe for some people and not for others. But sleep is a function just like in your body, and it's also, when you think about it, like not being able to sleep, right? That would be the equivalent of saying like, oh yeah, this cell phone can't charge, this laptop can't turn off. Like, clearly there is something wrong in the circuitry or how it's being operated that needs to be addressed. Okay. And I think that's one thing, because like we're like our healthcare systems are very similar, more similar than like other countries like the United States to, I don't know what Russia healthcare is like, but definitely United States and Australia are more similar. And it's also a human tendency, just like when I was like, oh, this breath work thing will fix the sleep thing, right? Like a 1-to-1, right? It's like never like if everyone can just think back to the time in their life when they're like, oh, this one thing's gonna fix everything, and it actually did. Like, send an email to santanorthpole.net, and like, it's a very connected web. So kind of back to the thing at hand of where, uh, like with it, like, I mean, this is something I always do, and people like accuse me of rambling, but it's important, everyone, to educate, right? Of where like you want to zoom out and really see, okay, sleep's a function. There's all these different inputs to it. Okay, it's not just this black box that people will treat it as, because I think the like Aura Ring trackers, and you know, tracking is really good. But the thing is, like, now it's like kind of guesswork trying to throw things into it. So it's really breaking that mindset that, again, the wanting things to be simple, and how healthcare goes about things, right? You have this, take that pill. You get this, get that surgery. You get that. Like, it's just always one for one.
Yeah.
But the more you're able to zoom out and really see, like, oh yeah, because like one of the things that always like boggles my mind is, say, like, we're 10 weeks into working with someone and they're like, well, how does, you know, like, for instance, because well, like, for many people, like, yeah, like the LED lights where you're like 5 inches away from your TV screen, like we do something about that, because that's not helping to get your brain calmed down. And like, some people will be flabbergasted, which again, 10 weeks in, you think they would kind of get the gist of it. I love all of our clients and patients. And they're like, wait, but how do these light bulbs affect my sleep or my breathing at night? Or like, well, how does eating lunch at this time, like, how is gonna affect my breathing or my sleep at night? And the fact of the matter is, one, you know, there's gonna be direct connections. There are also gonna be indirect connections. The direct connections are, I mean, just I mean, obvious to me because I've been like in it for quite some time, but maybe not obvious to someone who's like, hey, I'm new here. But whether it's like, well, if you're let's pick an easy one. Like, let's say you're eating too many carbs. I'm not saying low carbs is the answer, but let's say too many carbs, like at dinner, right? You have like what would be a lot of carbs? You Let's just say a lot of ice cream. Let's just go for ice cream here. Ice cream and cheesecake. Okay, you double down on dessert, which can be fine because the research has shown on your birthday carbs don't count. So I don't think they're going to revoke any of my credentials for saying that. But nonetheless, that high like carb spike, insulin spike will then activate your nervous system, cause cortisol go up, and when cortisol goes up, then breathing becomes more labored, and then like you see where that goes for sleep apnea, right? Or same thing for sleep, because if your fuel levels are swinging, like sugar swings up and down, okay, well, like the name of the game of sleep is to have like slow, steady, efficient metabolism. But if you have like glucose going like on the Richter scale on like a 5.5, you know, earthquake, that's not going to be good. But then the other indirect thing, which might be a whole can of worms, is a lot of these things then determine the dynamics of how your mitochondria are functioning, okay? Which produce energy in the cell. And then, like, this is where the next big break people have is like, Dr. Petkus, I told you I can't sleep. Why do I want more energy at night? Because cellular energy, yes, it does allow us to be energetic. It allows me to talk. It allows me to make bad jokes. It allows all those things to transgress. But cellular energy just allows things to function as they should inside your cells, throughout your tissues, throughout your organs, throughout your entire body. Okay. Again, that may be really lame jokes. That may be sleeping. Okay, because if you don't have biochemical energy during sleep that's available, and guess what? All the things that happen during sleep, which is a lot, okay, like if there's a reason when you, do people still know what it means to defragment your computer? Does anyone?
I don't know if people do it anymore, do they?
I don't think so. But I'm an old soul, I swear. But defragment your computer. There's a reason you can't run your computer while it's getting an update. That's more, I guess, relatable.
Yeah.
There's a reason. So back in the day, defragment is like you would like there would be like these bars of progress on top of the blue screen of death. It was great, but now it's just like you get the updating, and then it's like 5% for 5 hours and 92% for the last 3 minutes. But there's a reason you can't use your computer while doing that, okay? Because all the circuitry and programs, they're being taxed and can't be used while it's devoting itself to restoration. Your brain is the same way, okay? Sleeping is a very energetically costly event, okay? Even though I just said sleep's not an event, let's just kind of change I need to be always right? It's thing that happens. And when you lack the biochemical energy, then it's not going to proceed as it should. So like, again, whether it's like using red light therapy in the morning, like, okay, this helps my cells, but like, how does this help my sleep at night or my breathing, right? Because then the other connection, I think we're like, this is our third rabbit hole, is your mitochondria, right, that produce energy. They're just like the engine in your car, okay, except like they're way smaller, and you have like billions of them. What goes into an engine? Fuel. Okay, that's easy. Carbs, fat, protein, got it. What comes out of the engine? Okay, there's energy and exhaust, right? Okay, if there's exhaust coming out of the car, as much as we don't think about our engines inhaling oxygen like we do, they do. That's why you have a fan in your car. And so, well, at least I'm pretty sure that's why you have a fan in the car. Again, doctor, not mechanic. These analogies will be limited. There's like sometimes I'm like, in the carburetor, I'm not exactly sure what that does, but nonetheless, like, well, if our metabolic engines control how much CO2 we make, and CO2 controls our breathing, this is why I'm telling someone to go out and, like, say, get morning light, because then if that helps your mitochondria, helps better produce CO2, that's going to help your breathing, and then in breathing at night, and then da-da-da-da-da. So, like, the effect is separated by, like, 16 hours. But it's there nonetheless.
And, we were talking about nutrition just briefly and how that can impact our sleep. And I know, there tends to be a bit of a stereotype for people who have sleep apnea that they're generally overweight and they have trouble breathing just in general. And you don't necessarily have to be overweight to have sleep apnea, but you may also have some not so great diet habits, which – you could be drinking alcohol, you could be drinking a ton of caffeine or sugar, which are going to do a whole bunch of things to your body in how they metabolize and how long they live in your body, which can affect your sleep as well, right? So just when we look at, say, alcohol and coffee, which half the world love, what effect does that have to our sleep?
I'm assuming they're ingested separately.
Oh, absolutely. Well, sometimes not, but
I was like, interesting combination question.
Sometimes not.
Sometimes not. So, with both of the, and then the one thing I want to highlight as well, because like when because like I would say the majority of people that we work with, they are not the sleep apnea stereotype. Like by like if I took a screenshot of everyone, which I won't because privacy, like maybe 1 out of 10 people, someone be like, oh yeah, they definitely have sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Like people who are normal weight, some people who are underweight because you get told like lose weight and then they lose weight and they're like, well, lose more weight. Maybe it'll work when you're really skinny. Maybe not. Or women having sleep apnea, gosh, so imagine that. Or like people who very often people won't get reports that you have no anatomical issues because that's a whole like legal You know, you got to do. We do CYA, cover your booty
Yeah.
medicine in the States. I'm not sure if that has traveled over there.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people they'll have reports of no obvious anatomical contributions to obstructive sleep apnea. A mystery. Now, in terms of alcohol and coffee, let's go throughout the day here. So let's start with coffee. Everyone start with coffee. And so one of the things that will happen is, well, a lot of things. Beyond the first cup, okay, or I mean, it doesn't really matter the quantity. It's more so like there's going to be a residual effect on your body, okay? And what I mean by this is when you have coffee, okay, it is going to do a few things that counteract some of the things we talked about. So let's kind of walk through these things. Number one, nutrition, okay? So coffee, essentially, because like now we have an engine and we're like, well, the engine's broken. But what if we took some of those nitro boosters from like the Fast and Furious movies? And like, what if we put that sounds like such, let's do that. Like, that's kind of, no one has that conversation when they're drinking coffee, or maybe they do. But that's what that's doing. And when you have something that's broken, right? Like, say when you, say if you hurt your knee and you try to run, you're going to cause more problems, more imbalances, right? Same thing if you're now like, well, let's just kind of boost this thing. And you're going to like deplete certain nutrients, or like maybe you were like almost depleted and like say a B vitamin and that goes fully depleted. And now it's going to steal away from another, branch of biochemical reactions. That's going to happen. Okay. Circadian rhythm wise. Okay. The reason coffee works is because it blocks adenosine. Okay. Adenosine is in the literature referred to as the driver of sleep drive. Okay, like you had a long day. I almost went into singing that song there. Though. I was like, let's not. And adenosine will go up and up and up and up. Okay, so it should start low in the morning, go up during the day. It's this like long sleep drive here. Now you drink coffee, it prevents that drive from building. Okay. So you're not getting a bigger signal to have that big sleep drive. The other thing is because there's sleep drive and then also like a circadian or timing effect of sleep, right? And that's done predominantly by this, interplay of cortisol and melatonin. Okay, and they're more like on a seesaw. So cortisol goes up in the morning, ideally goes up in the morning, right? Melatonin is suppressed. And then because cortisol went nice and high at the right time, okay, at the right time, then it allows melatonin to then swing back up at night when it's appropriate. You drink coffee in the morning, it prevents, or if you drink it at the wrong time, which is, well, if you have sleep apnea, let's be honest, when I did it, it was like coffee probably every 2 hours till like noon, like from 6 to like noon or 2. Okay. What's the right time? Is the hour even? Then you essentially mistime this from going on, so you don't get the melatonin sort of rebound effect there. And then the biggest effect, honestly, is then coffee's going to put you in that overdrive state we talk about with your nervous system, right? So that's going to create this downward cycle, if you were. A lot of people get stuck because now it's like, okay, you're making things worse over here. But then also like that grows the dependency on this thing. Okay. So that's why a lot of time, and then that coming off this thing can like cause like the most miserable 5 to 7 days you'll ever have. Okay. Like one of the, like, oh man, when we're working with people, because a lot of like someone's healing journey is a lot mindset, right?
Yep.
So like, yes, we're working on like really making sure like this is your proper nutrition, all of this and that, supplements. In the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, we're we are not trying to rock the boat. We're avoiding any like, okay, you're gonna feel like crud for the next. And we're not doing that. We do not. It's not. People do not do well with that. So like either it's getting your function a lot higher, or even like substituting it out a little bit can help when someone is like good enough. Where it's just as simple as going from coffee to green tea, because a lot of those effects I mentioned are attenuated or weakened. In a way, that's a good option there. Now alcohol. At night, just to clarify, not what is it called when you put? Is it whiskey and coffee? Is that the thing, or what is Irish coffee?
Oh yeah, that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
People, that'd be strong.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I guess if you had strep throat, that would knock a lot of things out. Anyway, so alcohol. So one, it's going to be a direct mitochondrial toxin, right? It's going to decrease the energy output. We already went through that loop-de-loop. Number two is that alcohol functionally works as GABA in your brain. Okay, GABA is like the everybody calm down, everybody turn off neurotransmitter. Okay, now it does that in the brain, and it also does that in your muscles. Okay, if you have a problem keeping the muscles in your airways arranged and configured in such a fashion to keep your airways open, could that be a problem? Okay. And so it's a respiratory depressant, or it just makes you breathe slower, and then it'll make your throat muscles floppy, like a floppy tent that does not support itself. And in fact, fun medical history. I think medical history is the scariest history. When they first discovered sleep apnea, which sleep studies back then where they would just kind of watch you sleep from the corner, kind of weird. But they would notice that was like in the 30s and 40s. That wasn't too long ago. And sleep apnea, they were confused. There's some literature that will say they refer to it as like nighttime asthma, because you're breathing really fast and then you stop breathing. Breathing really fast, stop breathing was the pattern. So, again, a lot has changed with medicine, everyone. So they were like, well, what if we slow down the breathing? Okay. And they used drugs that had a GABA-like effect. And they learned real quick that they led to very adverse events like death. Wow. And yeah, not great. They didn't have lab rat studies back. Oh, and they did, but not to that degree or sophistication. So yeah, that's why it's kind of funny where people will have a hard time believing when I'm like, oh yeah, you don't need to change your anatomy, and that becomes a big mental fight sometimes. But it's very clear, yeah, you drink alcohol, your sleep apnea is worse that night. No shocker there. So yeah, both of those in isolation or together, not good for sleep.
And that's it. People tend to, have a nightcap, as they say, to help them go to sleep. But it actually then impacts the quality of your sleep, doesn't it? Like you don't tend to actually reach that REM state where, your brain is actually doing that cleaning kind of thing that it needs to do to be able to tackle the next day. So, whilst you might be able to fall asleep, you may not stay asleep, and your quality of your sleep may not be as deep or as effective as you need, right?
Yeah, because that's why I like the computer update analogy. Sleep is not on off, okay? Because I've had, it's kind of ironic, I can't remember, 3 or 4 concussions, and wow. I can tell you that's I know I can articulate words so well now, but being unconscious like that, like, yeah, that's off, right?
Mm.
We could argue like, okay, concussions, alcohol, just turn it off, right? Um, or even, and obviously when people are using prescription sleep medications, a lot of options have been exhausted, and you know, understandably, someone would be like, I just need to sleep. But nonetheless, whether it's reaching for, I assume Australia has the same brand names. I'm pretty positive, but like Xanax, trazodone, and things of that nature, it will turn your brain off, but it's not the update your systems
Mm.
program that you need there. So then it's not going to have the intended effect. That's why, like, when you see so many of these commercials, and I'm not sure what the advertising laws in Australia. You can have, like, they're called direct to consumer, or like you can have like a pharmaceutical drug ad on TV. Um, but there's one drug in the States called Lunesta, and it's like this like nice butterfly coming in, and you go to bed, and it's like so pleasant, so pleasant. But then at the end, it's like, and Lunesta can have side effects of waking up in the middle of the night and eating da 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 da, and like not being able to, like, all those things because you didn't run like the program. It wasn't real sleep. It knocked you out. The butterfly came in, did its job, but you didn't get the actual, natural restorative
Mm.
program.
Now, if there's people listening that are going, God damn it, I haven't been able to sleep for I don't know how long. And these could be people who are, and maybe got kids, and so they keep them up half the night. It could be their work, it could be stress, it could be a million other things that is keeping them awake. It could be their diet, it could be alcohol, it could be a million things. So if they're listening and they're going, I just can't get a decent sleep, what's some of the things that you'd recommend to them to look at first that they can do at home without going to see a doctor?
Gotcha. Okay. Well, step one, definitely get rid of the kids. I'm joking. Okay. So, uh, there, I can't sleep. All right. Step two, the actual one, and this will be for, because because when I'm like organizing things in my mind, um, there is this like whole list of like, yes, things you can do for yourself, and I'll cover some of the big things. That's like what it really cover in the book, and then like, building on those. But things people can do, I think, in terms of the least amount of time, the least amount of effort, the least amount of having to have red lights throughout your entire home. Okay. Number one, blue light blocking glasses that are preferably orange. You want to say amber, you want to sound cool, great. Or red, just because, as simple as just like wearing glasses. Like if I had a pair of glasses, I guess I don't. I can't demonstrate, but like it takes this long.
Mm.
That's how long it took. I'm not sure the people at home had a stopwatch, but pretty short. And that can raise your melatonin levels at night by like 50, 80%. Okay. So that's one big thing. I think the other big thing, because to your point, people being stressed out. Okay. It's like it's time for bed. AKA it's time to think about all the things that I didn't have time to
Mm-hmm.
think about, and also what I should have said
Mm.
12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gotta revisit that. Okay. Um, so one of the like when I said like people like email, they're like, oh my god, this is great. So box or rectangle breathing, and I'll explain box breathing and then kind of stretch it out and explain rectangle breathing because it's just very similar. So box breathing is inhale for a 5 count, pause for a 5 count, exhale for a 5 count, pause for a 5 count, and then you just keep cycling through that. And there's a lot of effects of this. One, it's very difficult to think about the 29,000 things you need to do the next day if you're just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Mm.
1. Very difficult, okay? That's a unintended effect that, maybe I just ruined for most people, but like that's part of the magic. The other part, the physiologically, is we talked about CO2 earlier, and when you are stressed out, okay, you're going to breathe faster
Mm.
and you're going to lower your body's CO2 levels. Okay. So when or I mean, maybe I'm not sure how relatable this is, but whether someone's having like a panic attack or even an asthma attack, what's like one kind of weird thing people will do that involves a paper bag? It's breathing in and out of a paper bag. So like, why is this? Yes, it does raise CO2 levels a little bit, and kind of forces the person to be more conscious of their breath. But the increase in CO2, that is actually something that calms down your nervous system. Is CO2 levels going a little bit higher? Okay, and don't worry, no one's gonna have dangerous CO2 levels that you would need to literally create these unforeseen, unnatural circumstances. Okay. So when you raise CO2 a little bit, it actually starts to calm your nervous system down. Okay. Which is what we would want. And so when you're pausing or when you're exhaling for a prolonged amount of time, that will raise CO2 levels into like a normal, healthy range. Okay. Don't everyone freak out. You're not going to cause global warming. And that'll help calm you down as well. And then that also will set your breathing for the night, okay? Because breathing is just like any other like motor activity, okay? I'm obnoxiously waving my hands to talk about this. Let's talk about, like, say, basketball, okay? If you do this like 1,000 times, okay, you don't need to think about shooting a basketball. It just happens, okay? Your breathing is the same way. But we go through life pretty much not really ever thinking about breathing. And so when we have a breathing pattern, that's not great because maybe we're stressed out all the time. We're going to be like this. I'm exaggerating, but maybe not for some people. And then that will lead to improper breathing at night, which, if you have some of the right factors in the mix, will lead to sleep apnea. But even if you don't have airway collapse at night, that will prevent proper oxygenation, proper blood flow, proper physiological processes at night. So the better your breathing mechanics are, the deeper quality of sleep you can have. Okay. So that's why, like, literally, like the very first thing that I'm giving people, like, I mean, I should probably go out and count, like, I'm just always like, rectangle breathing. Here's the download this thing. Just follow along. And doing that for, like, I mean, really, you don't need to time it out because you can just like be laying in bed. Usually I'll tell like this to people, like, like in the book, like literally in the book, it's just like chapter 1, like do this tonight. Don't We don't need to do like 500 pages of like theoretical waxing. We do that later, but do this tonight. And literally, just when you're laying there tonight, just because you're already breathing at night, so I caught you. You're already doing something. Okay, so just change it a little bit. And just, again, 5 count in, 5 count pause, 5 count exhale, 5 count. Sorry, 5. Ooh, I messed it up. 5 count inhale, pause, exhale, pause. Actually, I did get it right. So inhale, pause, exhale, pause, all 5 count. And then through your nose, most importantly. Okay. And if breathing through your nose the entire time is tough, you can still inhale. Okay. It's still going to make you breathe through your nose at least once. Through your nose, but then exhale through like pursed lips, or kind of like just kind of almost like you're whistling, but obviously don't whistle in your bed. That will cause other problems. So that's the one thing to do. And literally a lot of people will do that and just drift off to sleep doing that because it's very relaxing. It's very like you're into it, and then eventually like you just kind of stop counting and then just kind of fall asleep and you drift off like that. Now, for people who want to challenge, there's rectangle breathing, okay? Because like I said, raising CO2 into a normal, healthy range will help with the relaxation effect, will help with improving breathing at night. And all that is pausing for 10 seconds, okay? As opposed to 5, okay? So rectangle, we just stretch out the pause, so it's 5 count inhale, pause for 10, exhale for 5, pause for 10. Okay, you just go like that. That can be really difficult for some people. So just want to leave that there as like a little upgrade for people. Like I said, there's a lot of levels to it. Because a lot of people will get benefit from the box breathing, and then if they want to continue on, the rectangle breathing is another good thing you can do by yourself. And kids also can do box breathing. I'm not sure how long they're obedient with it all the time, but some parents trick their kids into doing it. So there you go.
Nice. And some of the smartwatches and trackers that are out now have that box breathing in it as part of mindful exercises. So, if you do have one of those, it's one way to sort of automate the process a little bit for you. So I think, it can really help you throughout the day, even if you do it, once or twice a day, or having a bit of stress at work, just take a moment and breathe. It's probably the best thing you could do to to let go of everything, because once you start to breathe, all the other stresses just melt away, really. And then you're like, oh, really, what was that all about? And then once you start to think about breathing, which we never do, right? It just changes your whole outlook on everything. So I think that's like the biggest bit of advice we could give for anyone, right?
Just breathe.
Just breathe.
Just breathe. Inhale. Well, it's funny because like I had these like little breathwork audios where like I'm counting for the person, because I was like, well, should I have a metronome or should I count? And then like most of the things I like count for me. Call me mentally lazy, whatever you want. So it's funny where like if I talk to people like, oh, I didn't recognize your voice. I'm like, how about now? 5, 4. Yeah,
Now,
but the more you can integrate that, like definitely the calmer, more, definitely mindfulness is also a big part that goes with it too.
yeah, absolutely. Now, Dylan, I reckon we could talk about sleep all day, because there is so many rabbit holes to go down with it, particularly for different people in different situations, as we've just sort of unearthed. But obviously we don't have all day. But if people do want to find out more about what you do and would love to get in touch, where can they go?
Yeah, so I think probably, I mean, you could try to navigate to our website, which is optimalcircadianhealth.com. Yeah, I could have picked a longer website name, but I figured I'd just go with 19 characters and 2 words that you could possibly spell wrong. Is it optimum circadian, optimal circadian, optimal circadian? You could also just go on YouTube and type in my name. I have a lot of videos there. Instagram are there. I was gonna say, like, do people look up each other on Facebook? I guess they do. I'm the only Dylan Petkus on Facebook that I know. And well, I mean, we really don't have that much on Facebook. I mean, we have a Facebook group, but really, I think YouTube, our website's going to be the best things there. That's my highly biased opinion.
Tend to agree with you on that one. What's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
I think the biggest change I would want to see is definitely more people feeling like the effects like the things they're choosing to do make a difference, no matter how small, like in their health, right? Because like a lot of times people, they'll um like whether they're doing some of the things like, oh, like it's like a lot of times when I'm like working with clients, like, I've been doing this for 3 days and I'm not there, I'm like, 3 days. Okay, like you go to the gym and in 3 days there's only one guarantee: you're going to be sore. And so like being able to really have faith that like the actions they do take, whether it's how you eat, how you manage your stress, doing some of the things we talked about here today, like it all does make it a big difference, and like the power really is in your hands. Because too many times we treat our bodies like cars, right? It's like, oh my god, like I don't know how to do this, like, oh, take it to the mechanic, which, like, okay, valid point. I don't know the ins and outs of, like, the other day I got the concept of, like, when the oil dipstick says this, then, okay, like, okay, got it, great. But, like, when it's the vehicle in which, like, you're in every single day and, like, you can't get out, like, being able to have, you know, ownership of what you do, and really know, like, or I guess, like, don't, like, kind of fall into the, like, whether it's like, well, everyone else is doing that. Like, no, it's It's your car, it's your body, right? Just because people are driving like that and, whatever, like, you want to be able to do what you can for your goals. And really know that, like, every little thing you do, like, literally, like, whether it's like watching like one Instagram thing about health, okay, not all Instagram things are going to be healthy, mostly mind numbing, but just know it's like really stacking up, and like every time like you're investing your time into yourself or your health, it's not like it's not a luxury. It's just something you deserve to do. The people around you deserve you to do for yourself, and everything else in your life. So
I love that that's come from a doctor, because it's a bit of a theme throughout the show, and I often say that we've got these meat suits that we know nothing about. And it's like we're on this quest to find someone who has the magic pill or the magic solution, instead of actually doing the work on maintaining this meat suit that we know nothing about. And these conversations are why we're here, is to actually teach us about this meat suit and how we can look after it a bit better.
Yep.
Dylan, it has been absolute fun having you on the show. Thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review? If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram. If you're interested in diving deeper into the ethical evolution with me, I've created a membership program that allows me to bring you more in-depth exclusive content without relying on paid ads. My goal is to deliver members way more value than the cost of the subscription. Benefits include Ask Me Anything episodes. I've interviewed hundreds of people from around the world, so imagine what you could ask. Access exclusive bonus content only for members that focuses on the downloads I get through my conversations that include actionable tips. Support Ethical Change Agency and the Ethical Evolution podcast on its mission to amplify change makers who make the world a better place. Access to global connections who can help you make greater impact in the world. Meditate with me, and discounted spiritual coaching or podcast consulting with me at 15% off. That value alone pays for your membership. For only $7 a month or $70 a year, you can access all these benefits of an Ethical Evolution Emergence membership. If you want to learn more and access these benefits, head on over to ethicalchangeagency.com.
Are you passionate about saving the planet for future generations? Do you want to learn how to do it? If yes, then you need to tune in to the Nature Backed podcast. It's a talk show covering the changing world around us, from renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, to ESG and social innovation. Don't miss this opportunity to discover how you can join the movement and make a difference. Subscribe to the Nature Backed podcast today on your favorite platform and get ready to be amazed.
Electricast. Welcome to Tuning Into Sound Wellbeing, where we harmonise your mind, body and soul. I'm Amanda, your sound therapy expert.
And I'm Stephen, the curious explorer uncovering the mysteries of sound.
Together we explore vibrations, frequencies and the power of sound therapy and tuning forks.
Discover ancient wisdom, reduce stress and tune into a healthier life. Subscribe to Tuning Into Sound Wellbeing today.
Electricast.